is a very special day. Marco and I will show you how bread is made. We all had bread before, right? Yeah, we all have it on our toasts, right? PB&J or sandwiches. But very few of you know how bread is really made. So Marco and I will take it step by step and show you how people have been making bread for centuries. All right, so Marco, you get over here and I'm going to show you and explain to you what's the step one. So besides having flour, do you know what would be the next most important thing in bread?
Water.
Water, that's very good.
Yeast.
Yeast. Do you know what yeast does to the bread?
It rises it.
It makes it rise, right? And what is yeast? Anybody know?
Yeast is a tiny bacteria. How it grows is when you use sugar, heatness, and the water, and when you mix it together, it gets bigger and it expands.
Right. So we're going to do a little experiment here. So let's see. We have this yeast, which is basically bacteria, right? It sits in a dry environment and nothing happens. It stays nice and calm. But
Very
then
soft.
it's very soft. But let's see what happens when you add a little sugar. And you give me about a teaspoon. Can you give me a teaspoon of sugar? So we're going to put sugar in a water. So what we're doing, we're adding food to water. Because bacteria needs both water and sugar, which is food, right?
It looks like pebbles in the water.
I know, it looks kind of cool. Now, using the big spoon, this is a tablespoon. Scoop this, okay, make it nice and even. All right, and go for it. Just put it in the water. Okay, so we have a tablespoon, and let's do another half. Let's see, where is the half? This is teaspoon. Okay, we had 1 tablespoon in, and we're gonna now add half. 1 teaspoon. Okay, because we need this yeast to work through our dough. Okay, put it in there. Okay, now mix it, because we want this sugar on the bottom to dissolve in the water. Mix it a little bit. Very good. Okay, so now you just gotta sit and wait.
2 minutes later. 5 days later.
Usually, if you have the right temperature and if you have the right amount of sugar, the yeast will activate within a minute. And then within 3 minutes, it should be big enough. It should rise enough where you can start baking bread. Okay, you see it's rising already? Okay, but here I'm gonna wait till it gets all the way up to here. Do you think you can do that?
2 cups.
Yeah. Look at this now. Look how big this is.
It's alive! I feel alive!
Indeed, it is alive. And that's the reason it has grown. So it has used the moisture, the warmth, sugar as a food, and air, and now it's pretty big. So you see how big our yeast has gone? No, it hasn't died. But once we bake the bread, we might kill it. So come on in. Come on, I want to show you what we're doing next. So the next step is to put some salt and flour. Would you do that for me, Martha? Yes. I will take 2 teaspoons of salt. And I'm going to run you over the recipe so you too can do this with your family. We're starting with 6 cups of wheat flour. In here we have a cup of water, we have a teaspoon of raw sugar, and 1 tablespoon and 1 teaspoon of dry active yeast. So again, in here we have 6 cups of wheat flour, and you put 2 of these, 2 teaspoons?
No.
Okay, 2 teaspoons, okay. And we're using sea salt. You can use any salt, listen. Okay? Thank you.
Oh, on the ground.
Just everywhere, go everywhere. All right. And now we're gonna add this yeast. You see how what I'm gonna do? I'm just gonna rinse it a little bit like this, so I can get all the good stuff from the walls of the dish. You wanna pour it in? Pour it in the center, please. Okay. All right. It smells good. Very good. Okay, now would you go get me 2 more cups of water? Okay, warm water. Thanks, Marco. And while Marco, while he's getting water, I'm gonna add just a little bit of olive oil. This is not necessary, but the bread kind of comes out a little bit softer and chewier, and I like my bread chewier. So I'm gonna add 2 tablespoons of extra virgin olive oil. Ready? Hold on, hold on. And now comes the best part. All right. Come on, go.
Good.
Feels good?
Mm-hmm.
Feels good and smells good. Okay. Can we both work?
Mm-hmm.
Give me some space. Okay. You see, use this motion like this, like this, like this. So we're trying to combine water, flour, and yeast together. Fun, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I thought it'd be so gooey.
It is gooey.
It got soft and then it got hard.
Okay, we need a little more moisture. So let's add a little more water.
Yay.
Everywhere like this.
Yay.
Okay. And as we add moisture, we're going to create a nice and soft dough. And once we have a dough, I have an additional cup of flour on the side that's going to help us form the dough in a perfect dough when it's actually removing itself from the walls of the dish. I'll show you this in a minute. First, we got to combine all these ingredients really well together.
I got a big finger.
You having fun doing this?
Yes.
The best part will be when we put it in an oven and we pull the fresh bread out. It's the best thing. I'm gonna use up the rest of the water. Hold on, Marco.
Oh, the water's so warm.
So all together, we had a cup of water for the yeast, and I added another 2 cups of warm water. Now, hold on, buddy. When I was a kid, no wheat was wasted. So, when I was done with bread, my mother would scrape my hands and say, that's all good dough. It's gonna make a good bread. So I'm gonna scrape your hands, and you go wash your hands, and I'm gonna finish up this dough. Deal?
For yourself?
Yep. Okay, so here we go, guys. You see the thickness of the dough? It'll be great if your parents can help you with this. And the motion that I'm using, it's pretty much like this and like this. So you're just kind of working the flour and water together. The more you work it, the better dough you'll have.
Ready.
Ready? Okay. What I need you to do now, you see how this dough is all sticky?
Mm-hmm.
Okay? And it looks like a big mess, doesn't it? So what we need to do now is to clean the edges of this dish and make this into nice, firm dough. So, I'm gonna need your little fingers, and I need you to go like this. Watch this. And then you just sprinkle flour around the dish.
I picked it up.
As you do that, watch my hands. I'm gonna go and kind of just scrape the dough off the walls of the dish. Okay. Very good. Okay.
No.
I often realize why very few people cook with kids, because it's a mess, but it's a mess worth making. So that's the reason I do it. Here, everyone. Now is the real work. Now we're gonna work this dough into a
Nice big ball.
yes. Watch what I'm doing. Watch. Grab it and pull it in.
Okay.
Grab it, pull it in. And I'm using these knuckles to kind of. Here. Yes. Hold on. And here's another little trick. Watch this, Marco. Watch this. Let me show you something. Watch what my left hand is doing. It's moving the dish. Look. I'm going in a circle.
Oh, so you don't have to move your hand.
No, I don't move my hand. The hand stays in the same position, but the dough is moving. Okay, you want to try to do the same thing? Grab it from the outside.
I know how to. I know how
Come, stand right here. Okay?
Okay. Do that like that.
Yes. Awesome. Look, it's this simple. Very good. Excellent. He's good. Hey guys, I swear this is the first time Marco is kneading dough. He has seen me do it many times, but I have never seen his hands actually do this. And if he can do this, you can do this.
My hand.
Great job! So it's tiring, isn't it?
Can I go wash my hands again?
Go wash your hands. So you have seen us adding flour around the dough. And now you see we're getting the perfect dough. I'm gonna work it a little more, and then we're gonna let it rest. And I think it took about another half a cup of flour, I'm sorry, to make this dough look the way it does.
What's next?
The next, I need a little bit of this oil. Would you put it around the dish for me? Very little, very little. Actually, I can put it in my hand. Oh, good. Little. I said little.
I tried.
Okay, so I'm adding a little bit of olive oil on the outside of the dish. Okay, and once this is done, we're gonna let the dough rest. And now that we have the dough so nicely worked in, I'm gonna let it sit for about probably 30-40 minutes, depends on temperature in a house. In any case, you should look for the dough to double in size. And one of the reasons we put oil on outside of the dough was to prevent crust from forming. This way, the dough will rise and expand without cracks forming on the top. Okay, and now we're ready to cover it. And we're gonna let it sit. All right, let's see what's going on with our dough. Oh, it's looking beautiful. Look, it's almost doubled in size. And the little bubbles are forming inside, which will make bread soft. I'll let it sit for another 10 minutes, and I'll get back to it, and then we can start baking it. Our dough has doubled in size, and it's ready for our hands. Marco,
Yeah.
you want to come back and help me here?
Sure.
This is fun. Hey, take it easy, take it easy. Okay, so would you do this for me? Get some of this flour. And this was additional cup of flour. Remember, we did 6 for the dough. We used half of the additional cup, and this is the leftover of that cup. So can you just sprinkle a little flour around here? Just in a circle like this, like this. And we're sprinkling flour on a counter so the dough will not stick to it. Ta-da! So, here's another little thing I want to teach you. Now that you have dough that's ready for kneading, watch this. We're going to go back into working it a little bit more, trying to get a little more air in it, okay? See,
Why do
now,
you want air in it?
oh, that's what makes bread soft.
Oh,
Can you hear the bubbles popping? That's really good.
I can hear little bubbles and not big bubbles.
This is just, we got a perfect dough here. And there's nothing like it. If you like to bake, there's nothing like baking a fresh home-baked bread. And not that I like to eat it so much as I love the feel of it. Look at this big bubble.
Whoa, pop it.
And I love the smell of fresh bread in the kitchen. Okay. Now,
I heard it squeak.
did you hear that? That's a bubble. So I want to show you what I'm doing here. Remember how we had it dough in a big dish? And I was kind of turning with one hand, working with the other. Now watch this. Watch what this hand does. Watch. This one is just kind of throwing the dough back to me like this. Like this. This one, this time I'm not using knuckles. I'm using this part of my hand.
Like,
Watch. I hug it and I go in. I hug it and go in. And this hand is kind of, yeah. But watch my hands pull a little bit first. See? This one is pulling it here and this one is just
like you're mixing it.
yes. Let's see if you can do it.
Okay, so you go like this, and you go like that.
Uh-huh. This part, let me show you. This part right here. You see this bone? That's where your hand is strong. So it's gonna go like that. Uh-huh. And try to always make it, look at this, look at this. You're doing fantastic, Martha. But look at this. It's a circle motion, okay? So you're making a circle. So it goes like this kind of, right? Okay? Look. So at any given time, you can look back and you have a perfect dough. Go.
Okay, so you bring it in,
Mm-hmm.
and you push it.
Yes?
Bring it in, and you push it.
Yes.
Bring it in, and you push it. Bring it in, and you push it. Bring it in, push it.
He's doing very good considering this is the first time he's working with the dough like this. I'm proud of you. Good job. Another bubble? Okay, now let Mama finish it. Okay. Okay, kids, did you hear what I said? Did you see my hands? How this works? This part of the hand this time. Fingers are just helping throw the dough in. See? These fingers throwing it, and these hands, they're kind of working like this.
What I'm figuring out is that this, you're bringing in this.
I can. See, I can move. I can go anywhere I want with it. Look at this. Huh? What do you think? Cool?
Yep.
Okay, a little more flour. All right. And then I'm going to let it rest for another 5 minutes before we put it in the baking pan. Very good.
I accidentally added.
And I'm going to tell you, there's a story behind this dish. It has traveled overseas. It's one of the dishes in which my mother bakes breads. And I think this dish must have baked thousands and thousands of breads. And when I visited home last couple of summers ago, she asked me what is it that I wanted to take back with me. And I said, can I have your baking dish? And I love it. It's so old, it has a crust of its own from all the breads that it baked. And somehow this crust has its own aroma, which makes bread taste so good. So you'll see it, okay? When we're done, you'll see it.
Did you bring that last summer?
I did. Okay, while the dough is resting, we're going to turn the oven on. 350 is good, but I usually start my breads on 360. So let's go for 360. Right here, while the oven is warming up, I'm going to finish up our dough. Okay, I'm just going to thin it a little bit. Just a little bit. All right, get the dish underneath. Here we go.
Gonzo.
Beautiful.
There's still some more air bubbles.
I know, we want to keep them there. And then we're going to let the bread rise a little bit more. Okay, and the bread had a chance to rise. So I'm just going to go ahead and make some nice patterns. I mean, this is not necessary, of course, but it'll make a bread look better. Okay, just use a sharp knife. And just go gently over the bread like this. We are ready for oven. Oven is warm. We said 360. And the best thing is now the whole house will smell wonderful. And that's what I'm after.
I think it's ready.
I think it's ready. You ready to see it? Let's take a peek. Oh, it's looking good, Marco. Look at this baby. Huh? And the kitchen smells fantastic.
You can see some bubbles that popped in there.
That's why, because the dough was really nicely done. You did a good job. All right, now the tricky part is to get this hot bread out of the baking pan. Oh, look how easy that was. And the special pan does the magic every time. Look at the crust. It looks beautiful. And the crust truly is nice. And I really think that this baking pan had something to do with the crust, because when I was home, this is how my mother's breads would turn out. And there is some special sweetness in this crust. Not just that it's crunchy, but it's also really sweet. And bread like this, it's great with soups, it's great for sandwiches, it's great for French toast, or just eat it like this. All right, guys, you saw how simple this was. I hope that you too will try to make it. That means the bread is done.